do it all. The angels willing to hold us in their arms. When our worth of stone or ashes, and we both passed on. Let forever mean forever and carry on.
Good afternoon. Another somewhat productive day today. That's always a good thing, right? So today we tried out one of our meals that we had made up, the chicken and rice, dehydrated chicken, and minute rice or instant rice. Threw some other things in there. So today I wanted to wait a couple of days before I tore one open and tried to see what it tasted like. So that's exactly what I did today. I tore open one of the packages, and just one of them. Technically, I've got it set up to where each package is one serving. So instead of opening up two, we just opened up one, and Jen and myself shared it, and tasted pretty good. I need to back off on the pepper a little bit, back off on the oregano a little bit, but other than that, it was pretty tasty. I think it's something that we could definitely live with if we had to. So I'm going to call it a success, other than the minor adjustments I need to make to the spices. So that in my opinion was a success and an accomplishment. So that's awesome. Let's see other updates. You might notice that the player on the website, the video player, is just a little bit smaller. And the reason why I did that was because I'm always very conscious about my websites and the functionality and, most importantly, ease of navigation. And the way the player was before, the menu in most cases wouldn't have been on your screen, and I didn't want people to think, oh well, this guy's just got one page and nothing else, because there obviously is plenty more. So I shrunk the player a little bit on the home page. That way the menu in most cases will be visible unless you've got your browser set real super small. But and even that should actually technically resize. I don't know. I haven't actually tested that on the resize. It's supposed to. So hopefully that'll help out. If people had missed the menu, hopefully that'll help them locate it. So other website update, and I'm not going to spend a long time on this since I spent so long on it yesterday. I did add a section today, and by the way, I put the Amazon store on the home page. I added it to the home page as well. It's still in this menu here, but I added it to the home page as well. So anyway, I did add another section to it. This is the items on our to get list section. So I thought, you know what, that's I'm going to put that on there just just to show people some of the products, some of the items that we are looking at, and then I will get busy and start working on the other stuff, which is going to be items that either we do or we don't have, but they're going to be categorized like communications, fire starting, whatever the case may be. They will be categorized into the different categories. But so I went ahead and I did this today and got this all done. Obviously adding some items, it's going to take a while to get, and in a lot of cases a lot of this is going to take a little bit to get, because it's not a matter of buying one, it's a matter of buying two for the both of us. So it is what it is, but some things won't need to buy two, like the first aid kit. I only need to get one of those. I wouldn't mind having a couple of the filters, one for both Jen's bug out bag and one for mine. A couple of these are a quick reference card for the UV5R series radios, so very, very handy thing. I think I've mentioned it before on the show. We don't have any, but I'd love to be able to get a couple in the future. Dry bags, we don't have any, so I wouldn't mind getting a couple of sets. But you see how this stuff adds up real quick, like this three bag dry bag set. That's hard to kind of say. It's roughly $20 to buy that set. So to get 2 sets. That's $40 I'm spending right there. These are the bike computers that I had been talking about. That it is, as far as I know, the absolute final thing that we need for the bikes. So obviously, gonna need 2 of those. This is an item that we only need 1 of. I want different options as far as cutting wood, and this is yet another option. I already showed you the saw that we do have, which is right here, the Corona Razor Tooth, the 10-inch version. So this is just one more method of being able to cut. Another item, just need 1 of. This is a cool little charger here. This will actually, this will charge several different size batteries, but it will also allow you to discharge them, and it will allow you to check the capacity of your batteries. So handy little charger. Love to have 1 of those. Snaps, this is the tent that I would like to get. We've got a small tent, but I'm feeling real uncomfortable about putting that tent stove in the small little tent we have. This would be the perfect solution for us for a tent. Anyway, a bigger power bank. So a multi-tool. The only multi-tool I have is, and it's a cheap Leatherman. It's a real, I think it's called a Turf Master or something like that. Anyway, it's got a broken knife blade on it. There's not a lot of tools on it or anything, so multi-tool is something that I need to get a decent quality one. Unfortunately, you can't go and spend $15-20 on a multi-tool and get something that you can rely on because they're just made too cheap. I was going to show you this because this involves the project that me and Evil are going to be working on. This is a little bitty, it's technically an 18-watt solar panel, and here's a little bitty 10-amp solar charge controller. Now, the purpose of that is we want to build a radio repeater system, a ham radio repeater system, just something very portable that can be put up in a matter of moments and left and just walk away from it. And obviously you have to have a way to recharge the batteries. I don't have any kind of a battery listed here. That's a very variable thing. But anyway, that's the solar panel and charge controller for being able to recharge that radio repeater box that we plan on building. So this little deal here, I can't wait to get my hands on 1 of them. This is it's a rework station, and what it will allow me to do is not only work with regular electronic circuit boards, but it will also let me work with surface mount electronic boards, like say cell phones, changing the like charge ports and whatnot on a cell phone. I've actually got a few devices that I need to do that to. I'm looking very forward to in 10,000 years when I can afford to get that one. This is another thing I'd like to get for the bikes right here. This is a little panel that I can put on the bikes that will give us a 12-volt auxiliary out for like a cigarette lighter plug-in. It tells the voltage of the system and also has 2 USB ports on it, which obviously will be handy. And so that is an item we kind of need on the bikes, the way we got everything set up. So again, another item. I'll have to get 2 of them. Let's see. Let me just. The other's just variable stuff. I could use a new hub to put in my bug out bag, since everybody should know by now that I do a lot of stuff with USB. When it comes to lighting and everything else. Even in a bug out situation, I do a lot with USB. So I need a good quality hub. The only hub I have, I actually scavenged out of a device, so it's not even a dedicated hub, really. This thing, I've been looking at this thing for months now. It's basically like a face shield, hat, all that in one, but it goes down long enough so that you can put it inside of your coat to make sure that like your neck stays warm. So anyway, that's one of the items I've been looking at. I need something camelback-ish, like, you know, a hydration pack. Here's an inexpensive one I see. There's a 1,000-foot spool of paracord. God knows I need more paracord. We don't have a whole lot of that. So 1,000 feet would be enough for me to like hang half of Washington and then some. So that's good, right? I'm kidding. You can call the drones off. It's all good. Let's see. This is the antennas that I want. Again, gonna wind up having to get a couple of them. They're like $28 a piece, but this is supposedly better than the Nagoya 771s, and so I would love to be able to get a couple of those. And lastly, I need a decent pair of reading glasses. I literally have been using dollar store reading glasses, so I wouldn't mind having at least one good pair to keep here on the desk. But anyway, so just to give you an idea, that's our items on our to-get list. And like I say, I'll be adding more as far as categorized items in the days to come. So I'm really stoked about doing this Amazon store thing because I'll tell you what, it's pretty simple to get set up. It's pretty simple to get more items put in there. Even though the cut isn't really that good from Amazon, nonetheless, it's pretty easy to set up, and everything updates on Amazon's side. So like if there's price changes or something like that, it all updates on Amazon's side. That's not something that I have to deal with, unlike the other affiliate stuff that you know that I do with Legacy Foods and Alpha Defense Company, Nitecore, My Freedom Smokes, Avid Hemp. Those items I have to actually go in and manually make differences in. So I'm all about automated. I love automated. Man, websites can like take up your entire life if you don't do it correctly. So that's what I'm trying to avoid. Anyway, as I said yesterday, the video now that is on the home page is our live show. If I was to click on this, you will see our live show. As I said yesterday, see what I mean, Vern? So that is what the home page has now, is our live show content. So that's awesome. Also, the show archives now, instead of having like the monologue archives and all that, there's just one link for the live show archives, and it will be the entirety of the live shows every day, starting with yesterday. So people can go back and watch at their leisure. Just go to the WatchmanNews.com. You'll be able to watch any of the shows starting yesterday, because I'm not going to go in and backfill all the links. Anyway, so let's get to what I want to talk about today, because we're already 17 minutes in, and this is going to take a little bit. This is something that I've covered yesterday. I've been covering in prior days to yesterday. And it's something that is, to be quite frank, it's pretty upsetting. So we've got two incidents involving police-involved shootings that have happened here in the recent, and both of them are just absolutely just swimming in nothing but cover-up. And it's important that media, especially alternative media such as myself, get on this and stay on this, okay, until something is done, until the truth comes out. And I'm just a small fish, okay? I'm just a small fish. But even with my voice, maybe it will encourage some of the bigger fish to take up on this and keep on this until we get some honest answers, because we are clearly not getting honest answers. So the first one I'm gonna do, I'm not really gonna spend a whole lot of time on them, because there's really no need. You're gonna be able to see everything you need to see. It's gonna be laid out right there for you. Now, any links for those that are gonna watch the recording of this monologue later on, because I will be putting it up on YouTube. So anybody that's watching that, any of the links will be in the description. Like, I've got a PDF file which is actually on our website, and pardon me, I will link that in the description of the video, okay? So it'll be easy enough to get. I'll also link the video that I'm about to show you here in a little bit in the description of the video, and there's actually two videos, and I'll make sure that they're both linked in the description, so that way you can go check yourself and make sure I didn't do anything hokey with anything. So anyway, let's start out with, let me go ahead and switch over to the YouTube view here, and let's start out with this incident down in Texas, okay? So I spoke about this yesterday, and I had played a video yesterday that included neighbors of the husband and wife that were shot dead in their home. That say there's no way in hell that this guy and his wife were black tar heroin dealers, okay? And I pointed out a few important things. I wished I would have had this so that I could have played this video yesterday just to freshen up people's memories about this. But I called out, I said, there's something. There is something, and I called him a little sawed-off peckerhead, and I'm still calling him a little sawed-off peckerhead. And there was something about this little sawed-off peckerhead that I knew something was up. That came out today, okay? It's not something that media's blasting all over the place or anything like that. I just happened to happen across it, and it was a series of images, and I took those images and I stitched them together in a PDF, okay? And I'm going to make that, it already is readily available, but it will be in the description, the link to that PDF I made. So, again, you can view it at your leisure. So anyway, let me go ahead and play this to freshen up people's memories on what the little sawed-off peckerhead had to say. Here we go.
Yeah, first of all, let me just thank the community. The outpouring of support has once been amazing, and it shows why Houston's the greatest city in the world. I want to thank Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who already contacted us to make sure these officers are doing all right. And I want to thank all of our partners at HFD, all the officers out on that scene, who all played a crucial role in getting them down here. And certainly thank you to the medical staff, the world-class medical staff here that are taking care of our officers. But now I want to speak on behalf of the 5,200 brave men and women of the Houston Police Department and the other 800,000 police officers that are working these streets every single day, putting their lives on the line. We are sick and tired of having targets on our back. We are sick and tired of having dirtbags trying to take our lives when all we're trying to do is protect this community and protect our families. Enough is enough. And if you're the ones that are out there spreading the rhetoric that police officers are the enemy, well, just know we've all got your number now. We're going to be keeping track of all of y'all, and we're going to make sure that we hold you accountable every time you stir the pot on our police officers. We've had enough, folks. We're out there doing our jobs every day, putting our lives on the line for our families. Enough is enough. Now, please, keep these officers in your prayers.
I knew there was something about him. I knew there was something about his attitude, and I knew there was a motivation somewhere that caused him to have this attitude. Okay? So it turns out that most certainly there is a reason. Okay? Let me show you this PDF file. Right here. His name is Joseph Gamaldi. This is Audie Wilson against the City of New York police officers David Siciliano and guess who? Joseph Gamaldi. Okay? Interesting, right? Interesting. This is an action at law to redress the deprivation under color of statute, ordinance, regulation, custom, or usage of rights, privileges, and immunities secured to by the plaintiff by the 4th, 5th, and 14th Amendments to the Constitution of the United States, and by Title 42 U.S.C. 1983 and 1985, and arising under the laws and statutes of the State of New York. The plaintiff seek monetary damages for false arrest, false imprisonment, detention, and malicious prosecution, and for the use of excessive and unnecessary force against said plaintiffs, and for subjecting said plaintiffs to malicious abuse of criminal process, and otherwise for the violation of the plaintiffs' federally guaranteed constitutional and civil rights and their rights under the laws and Constitution of the State of New York. The plaintiffs seek whatever other relief is appropriate and necessary in order to serve the interest of justice and to assure that their remedy is full and complete. Okay, that gives you, I've got the whole thing here which you're going to be made completely available of the link to this entire PDF. There really is no need for me to you get the idea. Apparently the sawed-off little peckerhead here has a problem, has a huge problem. Let's see, here we go. Without just cause or provocation, the defendant Police officers then proceeded to direct several racial slurs and insults at the plaintiffs, calling him a, I'm not going to say the word, an N, and threatened him with more bodily harm. When plaintiff demanded to know why he was being attacked, beaten, and with guns drawn and pointed at him, the defendant police officers told the plaintiffs to shut up and repeatedly called Plaintiff Palmer a effing N. Okay? Without any reasons or expectations given to the plaintiffs, the defendant police officers proceeded to assault and brutally place handcuffs on plaintiffs. At the precinct, plaintiff was fingerprinted and photographed. Thereafter, he was retained in custody against his will for many hours and falsely accused of firing gunshots while in the stadium as a spectator. The guy was at a game. I think it was a soccer game. Although no gun was recovered from the plaintiff. In an attempt to cover up their said assault, false arrest, battery, and false imprisonment of plaintiffs, the defendant police officers issued a bogus summons charging Plaintiff Wilson with a bogus criminal offense. The case was subsequently dismissed for lack of evidence. Okay? The actions taken against plaintiffs by the defendant officers herein were propelled by a policy and practice of the City of New York, which regards black neighborhoods and apartments occupied by blacks as drug and gun infested, and which condones a pattern of unlawful searches and arrests of blacks. The said policy and practice also promotes an ends justify the means philosophy of combating crime, which causes officers to arrest individuals, particularly blacks, without probable cause, and to subject those individuals to false criminal charges and other kinds of charges, and to subject those individuals to malicious prosecution, malicious investigation, malicious abuse of criminal process, and to excessive force, assault, and battery. The said policy and practice falls disproportionate, you say the word, on persons of color. So anyway, that's really all I need to read of this, okay? I wanted you to get the gist of this. So this guy, the sawed-off little peckerhead, has been sued, right? Had been sued. And guess what happened? This was New York, okay? This was New York. And he was just speaking in Texas. So what happened? So for his conduct here, okay, he got moved to another department in another state and promoted. Promoted, because this is how it works in the blue line, folks. The little man complex did him well. Okay? That's because that's exactly what it is, the little man complex. He probably got picked on just like you wouldn't believe when he was in school. Okay? And couldn't deal with his emotions. So he became a cop and decided to use his anger towards society, because he's a sawed-off little peckerhead, against innocent civilians. This isn't something uncommon. Not at all. So when he got in trouble for it, they put him in a different department in a different state and gave him a promotion. How do you like them apples? I knew there was something about him. I knew it. And there you have it. There you have it. So anyway, that is what is up with that case. Now, the second one here, I'm going to actually just play a video, and I'm just going to play the video. It's a press conference that came out today, and it pretty much speaks for itself, folks. It pretty much speaks for itself. I don't know why they've got no sound notated, because it clearly has sound. This video speaks for itself. If you can't tell that this guy is absolutely lying and covering up, it is unreal. Now, this is involving, just to refresh memories, there was a female officer in St. Louis that was shot in the chest and killed by a male police officer. The female was off duty and went to the male that killed her, went to his place where he lived, okay? There were two male police officers there, both on duty, I mind you, both of them on duty. She was off duty. Okay, now the claim is that they got involved in a game of Russian roulette. Okay, that's the claim. Yet, it's been reported, not widely mind you, but it's been reported that there was cocaine and alcohol found at the premises at the time. Okay? Also, it was reported that the female officer's pants were not all the way up. That there was something amiss about her pants. Which leads me to believe, just speculation here, that there could have been a rape that happened or was in progress. Okay? You're going to hear reference to a black eye. Okay? Possibly the other on-duty officer may not have been on board with the and it's speculation, folks. This is purely speculation and opinion. The other male officer may not have been, in agreement with the officer's actions and might have dotted him in the eye. Okay? Don't know. Don't know for sure. Because this cop won't answer. He won't answer anything that's remotely important. All he is doing is covering up and lying. And you're going to see that. That is so clear in this. It is unreal. Okay? There is way more questions than there are answers, okay? And you're going to see that. You're going to see that. And even the local St. Louis media is pressing this guy, okay? And I'll tell you what, you know that sawed-off little peckerhead video that you seen a little bit ago? You're going to see the same type of anger from this scumbag piece of crap liar. You're going to see the same attitude right out of the gate. So without a further ado, or however you want to do it, this is dipshit Hayden.
Officer Alex was loved by her family, friends, and co-workers. In several of the remarks made by those who spoke at her funeral, it was said repeatedly that to know her was to love her. Officer Alex will be sorely missed by all of us. Please continue to keep the family of Officer Alex in your thoughts and prayers. I called this press conference to clarify as much as I can about the circumstances surrounding this tragic incident. As you know, warrants have already been issued against Nathaniel Hendren, charging him with manslaughter. Because I do not in any way want to jeopardize the successful prosecution of this case, I will be very cautious about the information that I provide. For these reasons, some of your questions and concerns will have to remain unanswered for now. Although our Public Information Division has been in contact with the media over the past week, I intentionally chose not to engage the media over the past several days so as not to be a distraction to the family during this period of grief. Because this incident occurred while two of our on-duty officers were out of their district and not patrolling as expected, the first issue that I would like to address is how we plan to track the movement of our officers so that the adherence to their responsibilities and the observance of their personal safety are meeting departmental expectations. Effective immediately, commanders and supervisors will personally attend roll calls, stressing to our officers the importance of patrolling according to district priorities and beat integrity. Additionally, supervisors and/or watch commanders will hourly verify the location of each officer working the shift using both the radio system and available GPS technology. Our current GPS technology is housed in laptops within our patrol vehicles. The vast majority of the laptops are approximately 10 years old. A current IT project has been underway to replace all of the old laptops. However, only 40 of the 285 laptops have already been replaced. The Police Foundation has promised that they will help the department with any necessary funding needed to ensure that this project is completed as soon as possible. Shortly after the incident, I gave a press briefing about what I knew at the time with respect to the ongoing investigation. During that press briefing, I mentioned that the investigation was preliminarily being investigated as an accidental shooting. What I knew at the time of the press briefing was that there were multiple weapons on the scene and that at least one had been handled in a careless and unsafe manner. I later learned that the circumstances surrounding the shooting were much more reckless and dangerous than what I had originally understood. At no time was the sharing of my early understanding of the circumstances which resulted in Officer Alex's death meant to imply that any conclusions had been drawn from the infancy stages of this investigation. As I have already mentioned, this investigation has resulted in warrants being issued against Nathaniel Hendren for manslaughter and is ongoing. A few days ago, the Circuit Attorney sent a letter to the Director of Public Safety and myself raising concerns about the scene investigation and making an accusation that an apparent obstructionist tactic had been employed by our Force Investigation Unit. Let it be crystal clear that the accusation lodged by the Circuit Attorney, to say the least, was both offensive and insulting to the Force Investigative Unit and myself. The Force Investigative Unit is comprised of a lieutenant, a sergeant, and 4 detectives. Everyone in the unit, with the exception of one detective, has been formally assigned to the Homicide Division. Their combined homicide investigative experience spans more than 40 years. Between them, they have investigated hundreds of homicide scenes and dozens of officer-involved shootings. I'm quite confident in stating that the breadth of experience of our Force Investigative Unit is unparalleled. On the night of this tragic incident, our Force Investigative Unit and our Internal Affairs Division followed city regulations and department procedures to the letter. The accusation by the Circuit Attorney that any action taken by the members of our Force Investigative Unit or our Internal Affairs Division on this tragic morning as an obstructionist tactic was unwarranted, certainly untimely, and absolutely irresponsible. Although several investigations regarding a few of our officers have been in the news in recent weeks, I want to reassure the public that the officers of your police department work hard every day to ensure your safety. We are committed to making our neighborhoods safer and enhancing your quality of life. You have that commitment from me, and I will ensure that commitment for all who don our uniform. Our officers have a very difficult job. I appreciate what they do every day. While I hold them accountable for their actions, I applaud them for their daily pursuit of excellence. And I would like to mention that a few minutes ago, I received an additional court order from the Circuit Attorney, making sure that I am very cautious about my statements. So please keep that in mind as you ask your questions. Thank you, and I will accept some questions at this point.
So, what about the allegations of drinking on duty? And do you really believe that a young officer, 24 years old, would have gotten involved in a game like that could have gotten her killed?
So that right there would go directly to the findings and the investigation itself, which is ongoing. And so I'm not going to comment on any speculation about what the findings are, nor will I comment on what we know right now.
Not even on the drinking on duty allegations, sir?
What I've said numerous times is that I'm not going to confirm or deny any findings with respect to this investigation.
Regardless of whether you can confirm or deny the story, the charges that are out there, why should people look at what's going on here and trust that the officers really are acting in their best interest when they're being accused of being reckless with guns? We tell toddlers not to play with guns. I could see people not being like, why should we have to tell our police officers not to play with guns?
Well, I think what we see here, certainly in my 32 years of experience, I don't have an example of a similar situation. And so this is clearly an isolated incident, and so there's no reason to believe that this is widespread in practice.
In terms of policy and procedure, I know you mentioned the GPS trackers in this project. Are you guys looking at putting GPS monitors in different vehicles at this point?
Right, so right now our current GPS technology is within our laptop computers. So some of that, like I said, I mentioned earlier that information or that equipment is about 10 years old. Matter of fact, probably more than a year ago, we had started replacing those laptops. Unfortunately, only 40 of them have been replaced, so there's only 40 of them with much newer laptops. The rest of them are pretty old, and so the reason why we're replacing them because there are some failures and technology deficiencies in those laptops.
Are you considering putting that in all of the vehicles?
Absolutely. And so right now, it was already a project underway, but the Police Foundation has advised us that they will make sure that the funding is necessary and the funding is there to make this project move a lot more quickly.
Did the car that the officers was riding that night, was it equipped with GPS technology, and have you been able to verify where they were at all times during their on-duty status?
Right. That is research that is a part of the investigation. And so the answers to that question, although I'm not going to share the answer to that question, the answers to that question will be known as a part of the investigation.
Chief, as the investigation goes...
Respectfully, Chief, I'm sorry, Kevin. Respectfully, why should people believe there's not a larger cultural problem in this department?
Well, simply because, as I stated, certainly what occurred that night, there's really no example of a similar incident, like, say, in my time on. And so there's...
other officers charged currently with a conduct that you would not condone.
Absolutely. And so, I think I mentioned earlier, when we talk about the recent, so there's kind of been in the last couple of months, going back to the officers that were indicted for the protest beating. So what I'm saying is that although these are kind of culminating all at the same time, in fact, many of them reach back to at least a year or more. And so I think what it shows is that what we're willing to do is that when we find things that deserve the proper attention of misconduct, we are willing to hold people accountable. We're willing to if necessary, apply for warrants, whether it be at the Circuit Attorney's Office or whether it be at the U.S. Attorney's Office. I think what is clear is that we're going to, under this administration, we're going to ensure that officers are held accountable for misdeeds. And like I said, they range from minor to the very serious. And I will tell you, just since you mentioned that, there are some very serious investigations, internal investigations occurring as we speak. Not that you do not know about. That's correct.
So I know there's at least 7 officers right now that are facing criminal charges within the department. With that being said, can you name or list any kind of procedure or policies that you guys are considering to address behavioral issues within the department?
Well, each one of those, or at least as I think of several of them, they all are really kind of different. They involve different set of circumstances. I don't know that there's anything that we can implement other than to show by way of demonstration how serious we are about handling them.
Going forward, the other officer involved, you were talking about people having faith in your officer. So the other officer that was involved and was there that night, although he's not facing any charges currently, where do you see his future on the force? Do you feel like both the department and the public has lost faith in him being a valued member of your department? Are you considering terminating him?
I am not going to discuss the fate of that officer.
Chief, you talked about the circuit attorney. He used the words offensive, insulting, irresponsible. He did not say she was wrong. I don't know if that was he just didn't say it. Is she wrong in making an allegation that there is some obstructionist behavior?
Right. So again, what I would say is that I'll reiterate that we followed department procedure and city regulations to the letter. Okay. And so if there's ever a question about obtaining certain evidence, certainly that can be obtained through a subpoena, which means that anything that she's legally entitled to, she'll be able to get.
No one obstructed anything out there that night.
Yeah, all I'm going to say is that we followed our procedure. I mentioned the vast homicide investigative experience with that. This was a homicide, and it was a officer-involved shooting. The persons on that scene, collecting evidence, directing that scene, have done hundreds of homicide investigations, dozens of officer-involved shootings, and so I am very confident that everything that they did was according to past procedure, past experience, and city regulation.
So why was a urine sample taken instead of a blood sample?
Again, I'm not going to. The secretary just sent me a reminder not to talk about results of this investigation, so I'm going to adhere to her request as well as common sense.
People in the community just can't wrap their heads around the idea of 2 people playing this roulette-style game. There's been speculation that it had something to do with drugs, that it had something to do with sex, or even something else that is being covered up. I just wanted to ask you, do you have any doubts about the official story so far that it was Russian roulette?
I'm not going to comment about the investigation. The things that you mentioned
Comment
are...
about your doubts. Do you believe the current account that it was a gun game only and there's not a missing element?
What I can comment on is my assurance and my certainty that that investigation is being conducted well, competently, and thoroughly. And so the results will be the results, but I have no...
Are you scratching your head and saying it doesn't fit to me, or do you think it makes sense at this point?
What I'm doing, sir, is making sure that this investigation is being done competently and thoroughly. So the results are what the results are.
Did your commander tell them?
From what you've heard, you do believe...
I'm sorry, I'm trying to hear this.
Do you believe, from what you've heard so far, that Russian roulette was part of this in some way?
Yeah, I'm not going to comment about what I believe. And if you think about it, it really wouldn't matter what I believe. What I know is that this investigation is ongoing, it's very thorough, and very competently done.
Did your commander, as Tim Gardner alleged, tell one of her investigators that they could not obtain a search warrant for blood drops?
I do not want to go into anything with regards to the circuit attorney and her request or any of those things, because what I know is that we followed procedure. If there's something that else that she is asking for, certainly a search warrant or a subpoena can address that.
Spoke with Officer Alex's family. Her mother and sister specifically said they still have questions and they don't feel like they're being supported by your department. Have you talked to her mother since the night at the hospital? And also, have you talked to her husband? And what did you say to him?
Yes, I've talked to both the mother and the husband. And what I said to them really was more on the lines of consoling. I wanted to make sure that we had supported them as what they expected. I wanted to make sure that they had the support that they had expected, that we were meeting expectations as far as our support. I did not discuss, as I'm sharing with you right now, I did not discuss details of the investigation.
But do we have any idea why these officers went to the house? Why she would have gone to the house? Why she would have gotten involved in something that ended up in the death? It's kind of a game.
Yes, sir. All of that is part of the investigation. And all I'm saying is that I'm not going to divulge any details that I know about where we are so far.
Do you believe that the circuit attorney should be able to conduct a parallel investigation and be able to go and draw blood and conduct get evidence for her own?
Well, what I believe is that there are procedures in place. I believe that they are well-founded through experience. And I also believe that currently, as we do these investigations, I know that there may be some question about parallel. And not just homicide scenes, on any criminal investigation, our officers, our detectives, our evidence collectors are only operating under the purview of their supervisors and supervision. And so, right now, as we speak, members of the circuit attorney's office are allowed to be on scenes only as observers.
Can you say whether or not this is the first offense for these officers, or have they been going rogue, on duty, going to their house for a long time? Has there been a pattern here, or is this the first time you know of this happening with these particular officers?
So that would be a personnel matter, and I would not be able to divulge that.
Do we know how many dispatches these two officers received or ignored when they were on Dover Place in the apartment, what they were for?
That will be a part of the investigation.
In terms of this investigation, because I know you guys are going to have to work with the circuit attorney's office, I know she's put out this exclusion list. Her office says even though they said they are not going to accept cases for officers that are on this exclusion list, there are still officers being sent over, applying for warrants, trying to get charges, even though she said she would throw out these cases, she wouldn't handle these cases. Why does there continue to be officers on this exclusion list working these investigations when she said she would not take these cases in?
Right. So certainly what is in question, and we had a court date for January 7th or so. So certainly what is in question is the authority that list would have. And so, first of all, I'm telling you, there are people on the list, and I think I've said this before publicly, there are people on that list that in some instances, it's very obvious why they're on it. There's also some people on that list that I don't know why they're on it. And so the fact that they're on the list, in other words, if I'm not even aware of some integrity issue on the part of the officer, why wouldn't I send them over there? They've done the case. There's corroborating evidence. And so really what's at issue, particularly with respect to the list, my opinion versus hers, is the power of the list. What can that list accomplish? And the only point is that I want a judge to tell me what I can do with that list, because right now there are people on there that I don't know why they're on it, and we have asked for people to explain to us why we're on it, and we have not been given an explanation for each person on that list as to why they're on it. So.
What do we do at this time when we have these cases? She's saying we're not going to. These officers are doing work. They're doing this criminal work. They are witnesses in these cases, and she's not taking them. I mean, is it just like a waste of time?
Well,
tax dollars?
Yeah, all I'm saying is that I think you should ask her these questions because, hey, what they have suggested is that somebody on the scene, even though our policy would dictate that the primary investigating officer is the one that would present the warrant application, what we've been told is that we'll find somebody else to do it.
Chief, did somebody...
Well, I'm just trying to ask, I'm gonna get you, I just want to answer one question at a time. Find somebody else to do it, and all I'm saying is that certainly is inconvenient. But really, there are some officers who are surprised that they're on it, and I can't explain to them why they're on it. The initial list and follow-up list has.
Did you have them work this case?
I'm not sure. So I'm not sure about that. But here's my point. I don't know why everybody's on that list. I presume that the Circuit Attorney's Office does know why. The power of that list is what's in question, not the formation of the list. How the list is used, and I've read articles about people across the country. I mean, I don't know that DA's office across the country is using the list the way she is, or using some Brady list like she's. But my point is that it's very confusing to the officers. Hey, they have a responsibility to apply on warrants when they're primary investigating officer. They have suggested they go find somebody to apply for the warrant. And I'm saying it's very confusing and very disruptive.
Yes. The mugshot of Officer Hendon. What about that black eye?
Well, we do know. Well, let me think about whether I should confirm this or not. So I'm trying to think about the investigation as well as the Circuit Attorney's court order she delivered a few minutes ago. But I'm not going to comment on how that occurred.
Chief, you had
Why
8 officers in the
why
last...
do people believe this is not an indication of a larger cultural problem in your department?
Because they simply don't seem to have a connection. I mentioned earlier that the situations involving all the officers are very distinct. So I'm saying, so to say that what happened on this evening that we're talking about is somehow connected to or behaviorally connected to some of the other incidents is really there's really no connection.
You're not worried about the culture in your department?
I'm daily concerned about the culture of the agency. I thought you were talking about the connection. So
is there something you're planning to do? You have at least 8 officers charged with criminal activity, including a misdemeanor, in the last 16 months. Doesn't that set off alarm bells? Is that a lot? Is that acceptable? Is that not too many? What can you do about it?
Sure.
It seems like you have a lot of police officers breaking the law.
Sure. What I can do about it, I think, is what we've done about it. What I can do about it is ensure that these investigations are done appropriately, and that the proper action, the proper result, comes about when officers do that. I think, hey, as we speak, I think it sends a message to officers about conducting themselves better.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, we still have more questions. If you want to talk about transparency, we do have more questions, and especially in respect to the 2 officers that were charged last week. So we'll end there.
And with that, he is off like a prom dress. So I'll tell you what. First off, he came out and in his little spiel about how thorough and all of this that the investigators are and how much experience they have, he also used a high level of intimidation with the media. Okay? In my opinion, a very high level of intimidation with the media. Now, there was a question asked and it had been talked about, and I can't remember what her title is, if she's Attorney General or what. St. Louis is absolutely corrupt. And so the people of St. Louis have had enough. And they actually successfully voted out a piece of crap and voted in a younger black woman that seems to want to get to the bottom of things and want to fix some very serious issues in this St. Louis police corruption. Let me undo I had to turn it on mono so it came in both ears. Okay. So anyway, this lady, and her name is escaping me at the moment, is really pressing to get information on this. One of the things that she was pressing to get was drug tests, okay? And immediately, when this incident happened, immediately, they wanted drug tests, they wanted it done right then, and they wanted the results, okay? Now, I went over some of this, I want to say it was yesterday in the monologue, and I'll tell you what, there is an absolute cover-up in how they handled that drug testing. Okay, it should have been all above board. It should have been right then. It should have been right, but it wasn't. That's not how it was handled. Okay, it had already been brought up that there was a white powdery substance, is what they're calling it. For some reason, it had already been leaked out or whatever that white powdery substance was cocaine. So I would say it's probably safe to assume that had a true drug test been given and had those drug test results been handed over, I guarantee you they would have tested positive. So what I think they did is I think they took a drug test from other people. You see what I'm saying? I think they are using the results, I should say, from other people and not the officer in question here. I also find it very interesting that the other officer that was there at the scene is not being charged, okay? Which indicates to me that there was more than just a vocal opposition to what had happened that evening. In fact, I had said earlier that I suspect that maybe that the black eye that was brought up earlier, that it was possible that maybe the other officer had given him that black eye, okay? Because it seems very strange to me that he's not being charged as an accessory to murder or anything. So it seems to me like there must be some type of a physical reason for them to believe that he was not on board with what happened that evening. Not just words, not just verbally. I think there was more to it than that. From my understanding, there was neighbors that reported some screaming and, a bunch of ruckus before the shot was fired. Don't know. I don't know. That is what I've heard. Very interesting. And I'll tell you what, I think the media's on to it. I want to say she's an attorney general, but I could be wrong. My apologies if I am wrong. But she's on to it. She knows that it's that there's a big cover-up going on, and it's going to be very, very interesting to watch this unfold. I'll tell you what, this young woman, there are claims that say she was a wonderful human being. I guess you would say a wholesome kind of, ideal kind of human being. We hear that all the time. I'm not saying she wasn't. I'm not saying she was. What I am getting at is if she was, then first of all, we have to question this anyway. If she's going over to see two other guys when she's married with kids at home and all this good stuff, so we kind of have to question that to begin with. But the whole story just stinks. The whole story just stinks. And it shows you just how much they cover up, even when they have to, at some point, throw somebody at least a little bit under a bus. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that's indeed what's happening to this man. I think they are just kind of just putting him a little bit under the bus. I don't think he's full-fledged under the bus going to get hit with all the tires, if you know what I'm saying. Otherwise, he would be charged with murder, not involuntary manslaughter. And I do think that in the truth there somewhere, there is going to be sexual assault involved, and there had been no charges of that. So I will keep my eye on it to the best of my ability. If there's any new developments, any more information that comes my way on either of these stories, I will be sure to bring it to you, because this is a big deal. This is a very big deal. We have to turn this country around, and I would like to see it done peacefully and nonviolently. I would really like to see that, okay? But that's going to have to take us to hold them accountable, because they damn sure aren't going to hold themselves accountable. We are going to have to hold them accountable. not only law enforcement, but all the people in government, your congressmen and women. We have to hold them all accountable, okay? If we expect to fix this peacefully and nonviolently, we are going to have to really work our asses off at this, at making them accountable, okay? And then getting rid of them. Not waiting to vote to get rid of them, getting rid of them. Literally. Tell them to get the hell out. And if need be, have special elections, get some decent, honest people in there, you know, but it's got to start somewhere. And I'm starting to see a start of this kind of stuff happening in this country. So I'm going to try to pay close attention, not only to these stories, but other stories to come, and show how people are really starting to come around in this country. Now, is there enough people? Do we have enough time? That's to be seen. I can't make that call. I certainly hope so. I'll say it again. I would like this to be fixed peacefully and non-violently. Okay, I would like that. Doesn't mean that that's the way it's going to happen. Okay, and I'm ready to accept that as well. So I hope others are ready to accept that. That's an understanding that people in this country need to have right now. That if they are going to refuse to do the right thing, they're going to have to be removed, however way that deems, okay? And I'm not saying that a violent way, a threatening way, or that means they got to be offed, or any, no. But you surround a building with 10,000 people and say, pack your shit, get out, okay? It doesn't have to be violent. Just got to be a sure thing. Anyway, so let me go ahead and run through the news stuff that I have for you today, and I'll close up the monologue. Okay, just going to kind of run through these headlines quick here. Russia slams U.S. 60-day ultimatum on INF treaty as a game. White helmets preparing to film staged chemical attacks in Idlib hospital, says Moscow. Officer dead after investigation uncovers crime against a child. Yes. Apparently, this investigation led to the understanding that this police officer sexually assaulted a child. Okay, and I guess the officer at some point, I'm thinking it was in the middle of the road, the article said, and offed himself, self-inflicted gunshot wound. So the world is one person better off. Let's see. EU Parliament urges member states to recognize Guaido as Venezuela's interim president. Some of these might be doubles because, well, that's the way it sometimes happens. Trump says no final deal on tariffs will be made until he meets with China's President Xi. Supporters of Venezuelan President Maduro march on streets of Caracas. Trump spars with U.S. intel because he does not trust deep state, says a former CIA analyst to RT. That's kind of, didn't we know that? I don't trust the deep state. I don't think anybody in their right mind does. Hell, the deep state don't trust the deep state, you know what I mean? U.S. Energy Department blindsides Nevada with secret delivery of 0.5 ton of weapons-grade plutonium. Apple bans Facebook data collecting app, reportedly kicks it off developer program. Kind of insane, huh? And there's more news where that came from in that particular aspect. Sri Lanka halts imports of Johnson & Johnson baby powder over concerns about cancer-causing asbestos. Yeah, you heard me right. Asbestos in baby powder. More than half of U.S. coal mines have been closed since 2008. Thank you, Obama. But Trump's not doing much to fix that either. So just to be real honest there. Watch Russian Su-27 fend off F-15 in daring maneuver midair. That was kind of impressive, to be honest. Russia to bring back the supersonic passenger airliner. That's like cool. Trump says no final deal on tariffs will be made. Okay, I already read that one. Putin on Ukraine schism. Russia reserves right to defend people's freedoms, including religious beliefs. Pretty crazy when we see, not just say, but when we see Russia being a beacon of freedom, don't you think? Kind of Twilight Zone-ish. EU countries move to evade U.S.-Iran sanctions by setting up payment channel for humanitarian trade. More than half of Russians believe threat of war is real. Most place faith in armies, says a poll. Japanese government to hack citizens in the name of cybersecurity. What country does that sound like to you? No wall money. Pelosi draws line in the sand on border budget ahead of potential second shutdown. I fully believe it's going to shut down again. I really do. Longer range and powerful munitions. First Tu-160 bomber to join force in 2021 after makeover. Russia, get this, Russia could flip the off switch on U.S. electricity at any time, warns Maddow in new conspiracy. Conspiracy! And this is RT saying this, right? But this is insane, right? Because they can. In fact, a small group of half-ass trained individuals, right, in a coordinated attack could do this on a physical level. Not to mention how this could be done on a level, through cyber hacking. Not to mention EMP. Okay, there are so many ways to take our grid down, and it's not conspiracy, it's reality. So I don't quite understand why RT would take this aspect on this topic. It's very interesting. Not that I'm defending Mad Cow. Spain agrees to extradite former Venezuelan deputy minister to the U.S. Chaos and desperation grip Facebook headquarters after Apple blocks developer iPhone apps. And we apologize, Google disables its data collecting app for violating Apple's policies. Insane. All we hear about is how we're being spied on more and more and more. And what are we doing about it? Nothing. In fact, we largely hear crickets on this topic, along with increasing gun control and all of that stuff. Just a bunch of crickets. I hope that changes, and I hope it's soon. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the monologue. This has been a little bit of a longer one. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up and go from there. If you're here for the live show, stick around. We'll be live till 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you're just here to watch the monologue or the recording thereof, thank you very much. As always, God bless you. We love you, and be one with your spirit.